Welcome to our webinar. As you can see, the title of the webinar is called What Legacy Do You Want to Leave? Obviously, we're in the month of September. Last Saturday, we had Heritage Day. So when we talk about legacy and heritage, so we're usually together. So some of you might have seen, obviously, when you booked for this webinar, you would have got some information about the webinar. But all we are, bottom line is that we all leave a legacy, whether we like it or not. Our legacy is a combination of the way we live every day and also the impact it has on our friends, our family, and our community, as well as obviously the world. So as well as how we prepare others for life without us. So leaving a wealthy or financial legacy is a way to let others appreciate our love and our consideration for them, because we took the time to plan the impact our absence would have on them. So it sounds all gloom and doom, but it's not. I love this topic. It was very enlightening for me while I was doing my research, what it all means and things like that. But bottom line, I think the whole idea about why people want to leave a legacy is because they want to feel that their life mattered. And hopefully you're on this webinar because it's also important to you. So it's more than just preparing and reviewing your will, but more involved to that. So we're going to be discussing two strategies that you would need to leave a legacy. First of all, what I call building a wealth base or earning or capital base that will support a lifetime of income and capital requirements. That's number one, step number one. And number two, once those lifetime financial requirements are planned, then we talk about legacy assets. It's basically taking your wealth and protecting it for future generations. So that is the main thrust of this presentation today. So here's the quick agenda or the topics we'll be discussing. As I mentioned just now, obviously the whole idea is to reflect on our past, and as we celebrate our diverse cultures and heritage, often the theme of legacy follows. So it's quite interesting when you're looking at this whole thing. It's, even if you've ever thought of what it would look like to leave something behind for future generations, you basically have considered the concept of what we call generational wealth, and I'll be touching on that a bit later. But the main idea is that even if you're considering creating wealth for you, your children, your grandchildren, even your great-grandchildren, it's a worthy goal. And it's also an achievable one, and we'll be discussing that too. So quickly, before we get going, I just want to ask you a quick question or a little exercise I want you to think about. Imagine your life ended abruptly right now, and tomorrow would be a world without you. Think about that. If you had your life had to end right now, what would life be like without you? What responsibilities and commitments would be left dangling? And what messes, be it concrete or emotional, which you want to have sorted out? So it's quite interesting when you think about that. If something had happened to you right now, what would happen to your family and friends and things like that? So after doing this exercise, there are some people that obviously change their lives to leave a legacy they wish for. But also, you might be in a situation where you think, wow, I must maybe go repair that rift with my brother or my sister. In other words, your relationships. Because what are those relationships? Some of you might start volunteering more. Some of you might start giving more money away, be it to charity or to church, to free tithing. Some of you might want to start writing or make sure that your will's up to date, or write a will in the first place. Some of these people also start writing memoirs. My mother, for example, started doing scrapbooking as a hobby a few years ago, and she's actually given all her grandchildren as well as her children, call it a photo album of their life. Some way to remember her, but also for you to remember your life. Because that's another way of looking at it. A lot of people realize the extended family have no idea of their broader family history. And this is another thing that my mother did. She went into our whole family history and she researched it, and she documented it. So that's something for me, for my family. So I know we are call it where I know where I come from. So that's just a quick introduction for you to some food for thought as such. So what is a legacy? As you get older, leaving a legacy will become more important. And as I said, when I was doing this little exercise for myself, doing this research, it made me realize what's important. So it's coming to know that after you've gone, a part of you will remain. So your family and friends will never forget you, but legacy also goes beyond memories. Leaving a legacy is an important part of your life work. And I like this. I came across this little definition of legacy: a life well lived. Okay, so as I say, it's more than being memories. It's how you want to be remembered, and what have you contributed to the world as such. So some of us might be in a situation where our contribution would be so special that the universe is unalterably changed. But some of us also, us mere mortals, want to say, I'll leave a more modest legacy that doesn't necessarily change the world, but does leave a lasting footprint. I want to be remembered. So I hope that you think along the lines that your life does matter in some way, and that is your legacy you're leaving. So just grab some water. So just to get into what is a legacy, it is just a lasting impact on the world. So I think that's what's important. It's a gift that is passed down through the generations, be it money, be it property, or even stories. And I mentioned just now my mother has created all these scrapbooks, and she has also documented her life. So it's a story there. So you might want to do the same thing. So it can also be a business, can be profits from a business that's obviously set in a foundation or a charity. But all it is that leaving a legacy means you're dreaming big, and obviously you want to change the world for the better, even in your smaller world where you're living in now. So as I said, when I was doing this exercise, I learned a lot about leaving a legacy. So it's a gift to myself. That's how I look at it, a gift to myself, because it paves the way to finding more genuine fulfillment in my life. So it helps me think more what's important to me and what I want to leave behind. So you start thinking along the lines of what's important, your values and things like that. So it was a good exercise for me. And the good news is that, it's never too late to start working on building a legacy. So that's another thing that I found also motivating for me. It's never too late. So you can start building generational wealth right now where you are. Okay. So the main thing here is that, yes, you can sit down with your children and teach them about money and things like that. And one day they might inherit your wealth. But what's more important is spending time with them and explaining to them that it must be sustainable for their children and their grandchildren. So yeah, and that's where the challenge comes in also. So there's certain things that we need to look at when we're talking to teaching our children from a young age, is building a healthy relationship with money. So for my children, I want them to grow up to be financially independent of me, but also obviously they need to build their own wealth along the ways. So that's important thing to have. Encourage those conversations about money. I started my children years ago, and we have spoke about this in previous webinars. We spoke about money jars. It's exactly the same idea. So we'll touch on it a bit later, but if you have a retirement annuity or life policy, make sure that you have nominated beneficiaries in them. But also more important is make sure that your beneficiaries understand that they are custodians, and the implications from that. So you might find that, especially right now, the world is changing at a rapid pace. There's new products coming on board. People might be distracted and chased off this, what I call shiny objects. So it's important that you teach your children to always look for well-established and good advice, financial advice, and that's also You know, when you start building a relationship with a financial advisor or institution, that they always know they can go back to that. So, you know, it's also important to understand that when you're teaching your children about money, your investments should be founded on enduring and reliable strategies, investment strategies. Okay. And then lastly, obviously, having a valid and unambiguous and concise will. This is where a fiduciary, a fiduciary financial advisor will help you set that up for you. I'm amazed how many people don't have wills, up-to-date wills, and that's very scary because that will just form part of your estate, and that's another way of not being in control. So that's part of the story. The other part of the story is to teach your children from a young age about setting financial goals. You know, so yes, they might want to start saving up for that. I look at my son with his expensive tackies or sneakers he always wants to buy. But you know, it might be a car he wants to buy one day, or a house, whatever the case might be. Teach your children about having what I call SMART goals. We have heard of this acronym called SMART goals. S stands for specific, must be measurable, must be attainable, must be realistic, and must be time bound. So you start teaching your children at a young age about that, and sit down with, for example, you might have your retirement annuity and you're planning for that. Sit down with them and explain to them what it means, you know. And you know, here's a slide, for example, where the younger you are, the easier it is to start saving. So at the age of 20, you know, you're saving roughly about 500 Rand a month. But as you get older, you know, you're starting contributing more. You know, the age of 45, to get to 10 million, you have to be contributing very close to over to 10,000 Rand a month. So now you can start teaching your children about the magic of compounding at a young age. The earlier you start, the better. So this is how it all fits together. So it's one way of looking at it. So we're talking about having SMART goals. Okay. And then very linked to that also, I found this slide was very interesting. You know, understanding you and your family's life and financial journey. So we have money coming in and money going out. So as a young adult family, yes, or adult, you got educational loans you want to pay back. You want to save towards that first home and things like, whoops, sorry, let me go back. Your first home. So these are all outflows. You know, when you graduate from university, obviously now you got a job. It's what you do with your first job. And we have, again, spoken about it in previous webinars. Your very first thing you want to create is an emergency fund between 3 and 6 months expenses. Suddenly you want to get married. And now, yes, you might have more income coming in. Together, you need to start looking at planning for the future. So the things that we have children coming on board. So yeah, again, school and things like that. So it's a very interesting little slide to discuss with your children. You know, as you get older, you know, we start looking at, again, planning for retirement and things like that. But also down the line, we start looking at paying, you know, having, you know, either you or your spouse dying, or implications from that. Discussing all this with your children. Okay. So how do you leave a legacy? And this is also quite interesting when I was doing this little exercise for myself, is that there's two ways to look at it. You know, you can just leave your books behind. I've got a big library of books at home, and hopefully my son or my daughter one day will take over my books. I was thinking about it the other day. If your house had burned down, what would you run in and go fetch? So I thought, hey, all my books are replaceable. Yes, you can replace the books and go to the exclusive books, but it's the range of books and the list of books. That's number one. But also, I think it's my old photo albums would be important for me. So those are the kind of legacies that you know, yes, we have everything now digital, but there's still some photo albums that I have. But if my house had burned down, it won't be replaceable. So how do you leave a legacy? So some of you might be saying, yeah, I don't want to leave a legacy. There's nothing wrong with that. But before you dismiss it altogether, look at the various ways you can leave a legacy. You might find, you know, that your focus is limited to your own children and to your grandchildren. Or you might prefer, you know, having a touching funeral that gives everyone a chance to say goodbye. So yes, there's some ways to leave a legacy, both large and small. You know, I like the way I look at it is to reflect or review your life and decide what's important in your life. You know, as I said, I love my books at home, my library at home. Yes, I've also got a lot of audio and DVDs, a lot to do with personal development, a lot to do with leadership, a lot to do with investing. A lot of my investing books that I bought over the years from Amazon. That's a lot of money. So it's something that I like to pass on to my children. My passions, yes, comes through with my hobbies. I'm very much into my triathlons and keeping fit. That has carried over to my children. My children are quite active at the gym and things like that. Share your blessings. You know, you want to be more of a volunteer if you have the time. So there's 3 ways or 4 ways that you can always make an impact. Spend some of your money on things that are important, or causes that are important to you. You can spend, say, your time in those causes that are important to you, but also more importantly, I believe it's your influence on those causes. Okay. So very closely linked to that, support the people that are causes that are important to you. I think that's one of the biggest definitions of what is a friend about. A friend is a support system. So yeah. So how would you like to be remembered? As someone that was supportive, financially, emotionally, physically, etc. And if you still, you know, in a business environment and you've built up some experience, and that, be a mentor to others, especially the younger guys. A lot of grads that work with me, yeah, and hopefully I can be a mentor to them. So those are some of the ways that you can leave a legacy. So now we get to the nitty-gritty. So when it comes to money and things like that, you must understand that one day when you die, your money goes into what we call the estate. So there's 2 ways to look at it. First of all, what is estate? Your estate, there'll be taxes. The government always looks for these slices. So until the day you die, you're paying income tax. When you die, there's estate duty. So estate duty transfers the assets from the deceased estate to beneficiaries. So your first, obviously there's expenses that you have to be aware of, but if your estate is more than less than 30 million, you'd be paying 20% tax on that. Or not you, your estate will be paying tax on that. But your first 3.5 million, you can also, is what they call a, what they call it, the word again now. It's like a reduction, abatement, that's a word. Abatement, you can take off, reduce that estate duty slightly bit more. But it also, you know, estate duty goes one step further, or estate planning rather, it goes one step further, is the preservation and protection of your assets. So this is where estate planning is very important. So that's number 1, and number 2 is taking it one step further, the planning and management of the transfer of your estate. So obviously when you're not around anymore, what happens with that planning and that management and the whole transfer process. So that's what it's all about. So a lot of the main crux there is to minimize estate duties and all the other expenses, and also obviously to maximize your bequests to your beneficiaries. That is the main idea with estate planning. It goes one step further. You can look at what they call legacy planning. So legacy planning is more extensive and more holistic approach. So it's just looking, not, you know, estate planning looks at the assets. This is more holistic. It's more than just financial education for your children. It's just helping, as I said, this is someone that's built up a sizable wealth. So obviously you're looking at having this wealth being sustainable or sustained for generations to come. And this is what legacy planning is all about. Okay, so guys, I hope you got an idea from that, what's important. So there's 5 ways that you can reduce your estate duty. Number 1, invest in a retirement annuity. Remember, when you register for for a retirement annuity, number 1, the contributions are tax deductible, and as long as you're growing those funds within that retirement annuity, with a long term, all growth, be it capital growth, income, and all that within the retirement annuity is tax free. Obviously, the whole idea is that one day when you come to retirement, that this is the money that you can retire on. You can take a third as a lump sum, and maybe pay off some debts on that. But the other 2/3 have to be invested into a living annuity. But the main thing also that you want to set up beneficiaries that when you do pass on, that your beneficiaries or your family will also be able to get this wealth. And this is one of the more tax efficient vehicles you can use, because remember, your creditors can't get a hold of it, and as I say, it doesn't form part of your estate. That's number one. So that's one way of looking at it, is retirement annuity. Another way of looking at it is using endowment, where you can also set up beneficiaries. Okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail. At the end of the presentation, there'll be links to what we call the key information documents. But those are two great vehicles that you can use to build up wealth, call it that. Okay, but also to reduce your estate duty liabilities. As I say, these are not will not form part of your estate. Use life insurance. So you can set up life insurance to, again, nominate beneficiaries. Also, very importantly, make sure that your beneficiaries understand that they are custodians of your endowment, your retirement annuity, as well as obviously your living annuity. So life insurance, there's two ways to look at it. You can set it up that if when you pass, it's paid out to your beneficiary straight away. Alternatively, you can also set it up that it pays off all the other expenses. So this is where the estate planning financial advisor will help you with that. If you've built up quite a sizable investment, some sizable wealth, maybe you can transfer those growth assets into a trust. Remember, the whole idea about a trust is to protect your assets. So that's another way of also minimizing that estate duty liability. You can donate 100,000 Rand to your wife. You can also, if you're married together, you can donate 200,000 to the trust also. Okay, just understand that that money now becomes part of the trust, and the trustees will be looking after it. And also, if you've got children, minor children, if you pass, you'll be in a situation where your children are looked after. So maybe also set up a testamentary trust for your minor children. Okay, so there's two ways to two strategies that you want to leave a legacy. Number one, I call it creating that wealth. So it's just building up those assets from the young age, from as early as you can, the better. You want to be investing into, as I say, first of all, you want to have that emergency fund in place. They give you that peace of mind. But also, as soon as you can, if you're working for an employer, that you're either using a pension or provident fund, or if you're working for yourself, a retirement annuity, but you want to max it out. You can put into 27.5% of your income into a pension or provident or a retirement annuity. Maximize those tax benefits. Okay, up to 350,000 Rand a year, you can do that. Remember, your contributions are tax deductible. So the whole idea about wealth creation, and I think Warren Buffett summed it up best when he, where's my little quote I'm looking for? My Warren Buffett quote. Sorry, I'm looking for my notes here quickly. Where is it? Warren Buffett. I think it's just the whole idea about creating wealth, and I can't remember where I wrote it down, is Warren Buffett says you must be making money when you're sleeping. In other words, passive income. So that's the way you get, there's two ways to make money. You can work for your money, or you want your money to work for you. And with the magic of compounding, now you start creating passive income. So that is, I believe, is what the secret is to wealth creation. Okay, so choosing the right investment vehicle is important. So retirement annuity endowments are very tax efficient vehicles. Yes, you can add on the tax-free investment plan. Just understand that you can't nominate beneficiaries there. If you do die, it's formed part of your estate. Yes, it's tax-free while you're still living, and you can take the money out. If you retire, it's one of the better ways to take, before tackling your income from your retirement annuities, take the funds from your tax-free. You might have the shorter term goals. We use a voluntary investment plan. You want to save towards a house or save towards a car. Remember that again, it's not a tax efficient vehicle, but it gives you that flexibility to have access to funds. And by the way, one of the other benefits of a retirement annuity is what I call disciplined savings. You can't just really dip into that money when you want to. So it is for retirement purposes, but it's a tax efficient vehicle. Okay. So yeah, important to look at it. And then when it comes to generational wealth, the whole idea here is that, as I said, you maybe want to consider talking to a state planner, a fiduciary financial advisor when it comes to this generational wealth. That's what they're there to help you. And, if you haven't got a will, it's the person you want to be talking to. So the main thing is make sure your children know what to do. So if you got that will, you'll have your beneficiaries. Make sure that if you've got sisters and brothers, they have a copy of your will. Obviously, your estate planner is financial advisor will also have a copy of that will. The estate planner will also be your administrator most of the time, and also the executor. So it's a one-stop shop. Guys, hopefully this has made a bit more sense to you. So just a quick summary. Leaving a legacy is an important part of your life's work. As I say, it's a gift that's passed down through generations. We spoke about 5 ways to leave a legacy. Those are just some of the ways. You can go Google, there's a lot of other ways. 5 effective ways to reduce your estate duty. And that's the crux of this presentation today. That retirement annuity, endowment policies, those are great investment vehicles to look at. And we talk about creating wealth. You start small, let your money work for you as fast as you can, and then obviously protect it. And that's where that estate planning comes into play. So guys, I think the bottom line is, if you have a plan, it puts you into control. So talk to your financial advisor. If you don't have one, you can go look at finding a financial advisor on our website. Yeah, you can see over here. Bring my little cursor in. If you follow that little link there to take you through to a link on our website where you can find a financial advisor close to you. Okay. So let's see what kind of questions you guys have. There's a question from Johan, and Johan wants to know, let me read this here quickly. Johan says, how do I find a financial advisor near me? Yeah, as I say, you can go click on this link here. Let's take you through. It's on the PSG's homepage, and in the top you'll find there is a link called Find Advisor. You can either search for a location, or you can find also the kind of advisor you're looking for. So I suggest if you're looking for someone to set up a will or do some estate planning, look for a fiduciary advisor. Okay. Alternatively, you can also just let me just go here. Send us an email. Where's my cursor? Go back here. Send us an email at wealth@psg.co.za. Tell me where you live, and we can find the advisors for you. Okay. Here's another question you have from Eunice. What about investing in a share portfolio? Yeah, Eunice, it's great. I just find, I mean, I've spoken about this before in previous webinars. You know, if you have a sizable portfolio, say $1 million plus, then I'd say, yeah, it'd be great. What a lot of people are doing, the wealthy people would do, is we create what we call a PSP. It's a private share portfolio. This is managed by what we call a Category 2 wealth manager. So he uses his discretion. But the whole idea there is a lot of guys will move this into a retirement annuity. So it's wrapped up within a retirement annuity. So obviously you still have to stick to the Regulation 28 restrictions, but you can max out as much as you can there. It's a nice way of obviously making growth, getting your money to work for you. You can still have access to your portfolio online. You can still teach your children about it, but that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, obviously, is moving it into a endowment. Remember, endowment is designed for someone that's got a very high tax rate, more than 30% plus. Within the endowment, remember, it's as I say, tax efficient wrapper. All your growth, dividends, and things like that is tax free. After 5 years, you can take that money out, and it's all tax free. Okay. Here's a question here from Susan. Where can I have my will drawn up? Yeah, you need to find a fiduciary advisor. Again, it depends where you are. We can refer you to a fiduciary advisor. If you're up in Joburg, here in Sandton, it's a lady we like to refer to is a lady called Valerie Scher. But send me an email and I'll give you the details. If you're in Pretoria or in George, there's a Lorette Kuhn that we can also refer you to. So guys, bottom line, these are the vehicles we spoke about: retirement annuity, endowment, use a voluntary investment plan. This gives you more flexibility for those short-term goals. And to complement your retirement annuity, you refer to a tax-free investment plan. Just understand again that there's no beneficiaries here, no nominated beneficiaries. So this will be part of your estate. Okay. So hopefully you guys benefit from it. There was some insight for you. This webinar, as I say, is being recorded, and we'll be able to send it out tomorrow, or sorry, keep on thinking tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow or Friday the latest. Okay. But from my side, thank you very much for being on this webinar. Until next month, let me see, are there any other questions that came in? How big a difference can retirement annuity fees make to your growth in this investment vehicle? What is deemed high? Is there a rule of thumb for RAs? Marius, great question. So yeah, it depends on our underlying investments is into unit trusts. So on our platform, we have over 450 funds to choose from. Obviously, with retirement annuity, you are restricted to what we call Regulation 28 funds. But from our side, if you're choosing a PSG fund, the platform where the administration fees is 0.3% per annum. So it's very, very low there. If you're choosing anything that's not a PSG fund, it's obviously a bit higher, 0.5% per annum. So those two basis points, 20 basis points might be have some impact over the longer term. But each fund also will have different fees in that. But Marius, the best thing to do is go look at the fund fact sheets and do those comparisons. I hope that made sense for you, help you. Okay. Are there any other questions? Cool. There's another one from Liesl. Please, can you quickly show slide page 28, plan protect generational wealth? Yeah, Liesl, I'll be sending this the webinar as well as the slides to you guys. Okay. Pleasure. No problem. Cool, guys. Thank you very much for being on this webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your week. Until next month. Bye for now.